All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our class. May I just ask that we keep our mics on mute until such time that you might have a question. You can raise your hand or you can unmute yourself, or if Sophia calls out your name, then you can unmute yourself. All right, welcome to our class this evening. Sophia, if you're ready, then we're all ready.
All right, thanks, Pedro. Hi, guys. We're gonna jump right into it. We're 7 minutes on the clock gone already. For those of you who don't know, my name is Sophia, and I will be discussing with you today. Our subject is the development and intervention of infants and toddlers. All right, and this is module 2 or session 2. All right, so like I said, for those who don't know, from time to time, to ensure participation takes place from your side, I will be giving you a forewarning that I'm going to ask you to read a slide and maybe just comment what your views are on the slide that you have just read. I will tell you in advance, so please don't shy away, don't be afraid, don't be scared. This is just for us to know that we are really interactive. All right, so we jump straight into the lesson outcomes. We are going to be learning today the different stages of development during the prenatal period, as well as the factors that influence fetal and newly born child development, firstly. And then, secondly, we will be describing the role of the caregivers during caregiving routines. So, for our setting in the ECD world, every time you see the word caregiver, it would be referring to you as the facilitator, as the teacher, as the primary caregiver for the day in that class. Right. Straight into it. We go to our next slide, and this discusses when development starts. So, development starts from the time of conception. We say there are 3 stages of development, and we divide the pregnancy of the woman, the 9 months of pregnancy, we divide them into 3 months each for each step or each stage, right? And when you divide something in 3, you call it a tri something. In this case, it's a trimester. So from the stage of conception, when the sperm fertilizes the egg, that is conception, up to the age of 3 months, there's a lot that happens during that time. That's the first trimester. Then we go into the second trimester, that is from 4 to 6 months. And then the last trimester, the third trimester, that is 7 to 9 months. Most of us will know from old folks' tales, as well as from experience, that the first trimester is the most fragile of all the stages of development during pregnancy. It is during this time that a lot of miscarriages happens. It's during this time that people don't even know that they are pregnant, and the pregnancies get affected negatively. All right. So when we are speaking about pregnancies, remember we are speaking about adults, about wanted, planned pregnancies, and there are always repercussions for those that are not wanted or not planned, because most of the time, like we're saying, they are not even aware that they could be drinking alcohol, for example, and that could affect the development of the child. All right. So we jump right into the first trimester on our next slide. We need to understand what happens in this trimester. The one way from conception to 3 months, and we say this is a trimester where the child is developing a nervous system, the heart, sexual organs, and muscles, arms and legs. So those are very, very critical and it's a very, very important stage of development. Not that the other 2 trimesters are not important, but this one here is very, very risky. All right, so that's what the first trimester looks like. We go to our next slide on the second trimester, 4 to 6 months. And this is where the child's body size basically gets developed. The finer things like the eyelashes, the eyebrows, the heartbeat can be heard now on the sonar and the monitors and all of those type of things. And the approximate size of the child's head is now fully developed, all right, in the second trimester. Then we go to the third trimester, that is 7 to 9 months. And this is when the even finer things start to develop. So the toenails, the fingernails, the fingerprints, all of those type of things start to take effect now. All the organs become fully developed, and the baby is actually in a routine of sleeping and waking. The mother can actively feel the child is now kicking. Some say that they can feel it before then. But for those of us who are voluptuous, it's round about this time that we actually really do feel the child when he is awake and when he is sleeping, when he or she is awake or sleeping. All right. So that's a rundown for those of us who didn't know about pregnancy and how we divide it into three and the important things that happens in each trimester. All right. Now we go on to our next slide, and this is the importance of maternal health for child development. So maternal here, for those of us who English is not our first language, it refers to the mother's health. Right? So there are different factors that gets taken into consideration. The mother's health care. What are we speaking about when we speak about the mother's health care? That she needs to be taken care of properly. All her vitamins that she needs to um, be taking during pregnancy, because her body is burning off so much energy at such a high rate. She's going to need supplements. She's going to need extra intake of health proteins and stuff like that, right? If that does not happen, then we are most likely to see children that are born with low birth weight. The children are underweight, right? And they usually have illnesses and they have diseases. The immune systems are compromised. And a lot of times, the mothers, because they don't go to clinics and they don't get proper health care, they're not even aware of the fact that they have HIV or that they have AIDS, and they can actually stop the prevention, or they can stop the transmission of that HIV and that AIDS to the child. So proper health care for the maternal side of things is very, very important. Number two on the important list for the mother is her nutrition. Right? She needs to be eating fruits and vegetables. She needs to be getting her proteins, her starches, and all of these things that supply her body with the strength, the energy, the nutrients that she needs to be able to give birth to a child that is of a healthy weight, that doesn't have any illnesses and diseases, a child that is not stillborn, a child that doesn't have epilepsy rickets, fetal alcohol syndrome, all of these type of things. So the mother's healthcare needs to be in order. And secondly, we say the mother's nutrition needs to be in order. We jump straight into our next slide, and that is that the mother needs a lot of rest. Severe stress on pregnant women can affect their unborn babies in several ways. These include miscarriage, premature birth or low birth weight, and breathing problems, digestion, etc. All right. So if the mother is not resting, we're saying that all of these things can be happening to her. And obviously, we know things like she shouldn't be picking up heavy things. Some of them are not just old people's myths; they are actually factually proven in science that it compromises the pregnancy. All right. So we need to be able to distinguish between what is old folks tales and what are the real scientific things that can go wrong if we don't protect that mother and their child during that stages of pregnancy. All right. So here we said in the beginning that we are conventionally speaking about planned pregnancies. And the thing that we obviously are hinting against is avoiding teenage pregnancies. That is a problem, all right? And you are going to have many of that results of that problem in your classroom, in your care center from time to time, all right? So we always say that prevention is better than cure, all right? So with regards to preventing teenage pregnancy, we're going to discuss now why all the problems that comes with it and why we rather advocate against preventing it, right? So problems that come from it can be anything that includes stuff like drug abuse, ignorance of the teenage mother, poor nutrition, poor health care, getting herself into situations where she has sexually transmitted diseases like syphilis and gonorrhea, and all of these things that are avoidable if she had the knowledge. So as a ECD facility and somebody who is pro life and who is pro dignity for children and for mothers, it's going to become part of our advocacy plan in our centers to advocate against teenage pregnancies. All right. Although it has become such a norm in today's society, it's not something that we should take lightly. All right. Um, I'm going to read the next slide. And then after that, I'm going to ask Lirato to read for us the slide after that. All right, we can go to the next slide, Pedro. Right, so I'm going to read this one. And after this one, Lirato is going to read. All right, ways to prevent teenage pregnancy include providing positive behavior guidance and counseling throughout the period of early childhood and adolescence, counseling children on early behavioral problems, and providing counseling to parents to provide healthy and functional family environments. All right. So this is a very bird's eye view on avoiding teenage pregnancy, but it's basically trying to simplify it by saying that when we start talking about uncomfortable topics, obviously age appropriately to children in the ECD center, it sets the foundation for more information and more mature information to come on later that would prevent these children from getting themselves in such situations in the first place. All right. Away from that, we are going to be jumping straight into our next slide on ways to bond with a newborn baby. Lirat, are you there?
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. And how are you?
Thank you, Lirato. You can go ahead.
All right. Ways to bond with a newborn baby include, this one we are looking at ways to bond with a newborn baby, and it includes giving them undivided attention. Mothers can use their natural instinct to communicate with their children, understanding their children's capabilities. Newborn babies can communicate by responding to voices, showing a preference to the mother's voice, looking at human faces, opening their eyes and becoming alert when held, following the movement of objects with their eyes, turning away from all those they don't agree with.
All right. Lirato, in your own experience, what would you say on this page would be something that you can relate to with regards to bonding with a newborn baby?
Oh, yes. I've got two kids. They are now 5 and 8. Yeah, when they were young, like
Yeah.
below, like maybe let me say 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
When I walked into the house and I say something, I noticed that um, they would respond. They like maybe they would uh, hold up their heads, maybe
Mm.
like down. They would hold up their heads when
Yes,
they
yes.
my voice. Yeah, that's what I
Excellent.
noticed. My two daughters when they were growing up.
Awesome. Awesome. So they actually began recognizing you or recognizing your voice basically, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if we go back to our previous slide, we will remember that we were talking about prevention of teenage pregnancies. Now, when you look at all of these things that are listed here on ways to bond with a newborn baby, you will understand why we are advocating against teenage pregnancies, because teenagers are not going to be able to give a baby their undivided attention. They're still going through the phases where they are strung on friends and following hip hop stuff and wanting to go out and wanting to have fun. And they're just not going to be able to give that baby the attention that the baby needs. They're going to feel like that baby is slowing them down. They're going to feel like they're missing out on life and all of those type of things. All right. So again, with regards to bonding, we go into our next slide and we speak about attachment. Bonding and attaching basically are one and the same thing. All right. After this slide, I'm going to ask our next learner to read. I'm going to ask Adri to read after the slide, the slide that's going to be coming up. All right. So now we're speaking about attachment. We spoke about bonding and we're going into bonding a little bit more. Not only are you bonding with somebody, once you bond with somebody, you become attached to that person. So we're just going to be discussing a little bit what is this attachment all about. We say with regards to a child or a baby, it is a strong emotional bond that forms between an infant and a caregiver. The child's brain develops through the interaction with the caregiver. So we can see that this bond is something that is very, very important. Remember, we as the ECD facilitators or the Montessori directors or the class teacher, whatever we want to call ourselves, we are going to be regarded as that caregiver in the child's life. We may not be the primary caregiver as the mother or the gogo or whoever is there with the child throughout the night, but we do play a very, very important role as a caregiver in that child's life, somebody that they're going to become used to, that they're going to recognize your voice, that they're going to recognize your face whenever they see you, and then they're going to become more trusting of you. All right. So that is what we're talking about when we're speaking about attachment. The child can become attached to the mother, to the father, to the nanny that helps her, to the auntie that's always there, to the brother, to the sister. The child can become attached to different people, but the child will always be more attached to the primary caregiver, the person who spends the most amount of time with that child, which traditionally used to always be the mother. But then life threw us some curveballs, and sometimes it is the grandmother. Sometimes you will be surprised to find out that it is the teacher at school that spends those 8 hours with the child, because the child just gets home, has a bath, gets fed, and then gets put in the bed. So there's no real bonding that's happening there. And that's where we need to take this work that we do really, really seriously, take it into our hearts and learn as much as we can about these little beings, these little creatures, and how they develop so that we can give them the best experience. All right. Adri, are you ready for our next slide?
I am ready.
All right, Pedro. There we go. Take it away, Adri.
Stages of attachment. Stage 1, pre-attachment, birth to 3 months. Babies respond to people but are not able to distinguish between them. Around 6 weeks, babies often smile at any face that appears. Babies communicate through crying, grasping, and suckling. Each behavior during this stage brings babies closer to their caregivers and further promotes bonding and emotional investment.
Okay, Adri. Can you tell us a little bit what you know about this stage, pre-attachment, that happens between birth and 3 months? Anything you picked up out of personal experience, maybe?
With my own experience is I've noticed that my oldest son would prefer that, like when I breastfed him, that I sing to him. And yes, I used to sing to him when he was still in my tummy. So then he would fall asleep quicker, and then I have to wake him up the whole time. So yeah, we had a very special bond.
Awesome.
But yeah, I always try to make eye contact with him when we're talking, and even when he cried, I would notice, okay, this is a dirty nappy, or he needs something to eat, or this is, I want to be picked up.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow. That's amazing. You know, you're just reminding me now. I used to talk to my baby the last born. I have 8, by the way. And so the last one was special because I knew that was going to be the last one, right? And I
Yes.
used to speak to her. And by that time, I was fully trained in ECD, Montessori, and everything. And I was trying to practice on her everything that I had learned. And I used to speak to her. And my husband always used to be like, "Oh yeah, right," as if she understands. And when she actually used to respond, like make a certain sound when I expected it or I demanded it or anything like that, he used to become very fascinated with it. And I said, maybe they don't understand the words that we are using, but they definitely understand and they feel the energy. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely, yes.
They definitely are emotional beings, and the energy they can feel from people is legit, and so they will respond towards the energy even if they don't understand the exact vocabulary or words that is coming out of the person's mouth right now.
I agree.
Okay, that was very sweet, Adri. Thanks so much for sharing that with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So the first stage of attachment in the first trimester is pre-attachment. That is when the child doesn't know anybody, it doesn't know anything. But like Adri showed us now, the one advantage that you do have when the child is in utero while you are pregnant is that the child can hear your voice. So even though the child doesn't know what you look like, he may respond to what you sound like. He may respond to a certain humming, a certain song that he always heard. All right, we jump straight into the second stage. Our next slide, stage 2, and that is attachment in the making. So this is how attachment starts. This is around about 3 to 6 months old. I'm going to read that part. And stage 3, I'm going to ask Margaret to read for us. All right. So as soon as I'm finished with stage 2, Margaret, you can prepare yourself for stage 3. All right. So in stage 2, attachment in the making, when the child is around about 3 to 6 months, we say they start to differentiate between people. So you will see the child has no problem attaching to mommy naturally. Usually the mummies are breastfeeding, so the child is very familiar with the mother. But because the father's always around, the child then doesn't mind going to the father as well. He won't cry if he goes to if the mother gives into the father because she needs to go to the bathroom or she needs to do her own things or whatever. But he can tell the difference. And when he's hungry, even though he's with the father and he knows the father, he starts crying in a certain way, and the father even knows that it's time to go to mommy now. All right. We also say in this stage, they may smile and babble at people they recognize, and they will just stare at a stranger. Children are very honest. If they don't know you, they're going to show you they don't know you, and they don't care if you get offended or not. They'll just stare at you. All right. If they cry, their favorite people are better able to comfort them, and they can tell when their preferred or primary caregiver is in the room. And like we said just now, it can be as simple as recognizing the voice. It can even be as something as simple as recognizing that person's scent or that person's signature spray or perfume or anything like that. So that is attachment in the making. This is a very critical period. Now, I just want to take a minute and pause here and make some of us understand the importance of what we're learning here today. In the world we're living today, chances are that you are most probably going to have this set up in your ECD center where you are going to be looking after the children this young. Anything from 6 weeks old, or I shouldn't say thing, that's rude. Any creature or any human being from the age of 6 weeks old, there's a high possibility that you could be looking after that small infant. And if you don't understand what is going on with them during those times, you're going to become frustrated, you're going to become angry, you are going to miss out on a lot of good work that could be done in that child's development. All right. So it's important for us to learn this, even though we may not be in those areas or teaching in that age group at this point in time. It's important for us to learn this so that later on we may be able to identify where something went horribly wrong and hopefully try and correct the situation. All right, I'm done with my stage 2. We're going to ask Margaret to now read stage 3. Margaret, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening.
Hi, Margaret. How are you?
I'm good, and how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Welcome, welcome. You can go ahead with stage 3.
Okay, stage 3 is clear-cut attachment. This happens between the age of 9 months to 2 years. The attachment for a certain individual intensifies. They can partly engage with the people around them. Once babies crawl, they'll attempt to follow their favorite person around. And when the primary caregiver returns after a period of time, babies become excited to see them at about 7 or 8 months. Babies begin to feel strangers.
Okay, awesome. So Margaret, tell us, do you have any children of your own?
Yes, I do.
All right, so what do you think about this theory of stage 3, clear-cut attachments? Which one can you relate to?
Okay, I'll relate to the one that is once babies grow, they will attempt to follow their favorite person around. So it's like my kids, I had them named when I was my firstborn. Actually, I was most of the time alone with my sister. So whenever my sister is going somewhere, my child will actually follow. Sometime there was a day that I remember my eldest daughter, we had to catch her by the gate because my sister went out to the spaza and we didn't know that she's out. So as soon as she went out, I started looking for my child. I didn't know where's my baby. When I ran, there is my child at the gate. He's crying, and my sister is that side. She can't even see that my child is following her. And there was a time that I was going back to work, so I had to put her on at a preschool. When I put her there the first day, she was crying the whole day. So I asked my sister to just go and check how is she. Yeah, as soon as my sister got there, my child didn't want to be left there. She was crying. She was following my sister everywhere. It's like she was crawling, but she was crying. When I got there, that lady said, "No, I think you must just leave your daughter with your sister because it's not working. It's not working." She cried the whole day. It's like we made a mistake of me telling her to just go and check. Yeah, so I can just relate on it.
All right, so that was a clear-cut attachment that your daughter had with your sister. Okay, awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us, Margaret. All right, so we come now to our final stage of attachment. That is stage 4, and that is full attachment. Next slide, Pedro. There we go. All right, before we do that one, let me see who's next. Tswaki, you will be reading the slide after the slide on the screen right now. Kindly prepare yourself there. Okay, so full attachment happens at 2 years old and beyond. What we're saying here is that babies or children, toddlers, have the understanding at this age that parents also have other obligations. And as a result, the child will be less concerned when the caregiver leaves for a certain period of time. So, I mean, it varies from child to child, but any 2-year-old that you're going to leave in a new place is going to be anxious, and they're going to cry after the mother, cry after the father, the primary caregiver, the person, like in Margaret's case, the favorite auntie. So we need to understand when the children are doing this, in Afrikaans, we can say, nee, man, die kind is nou net as prins, like the child is just showing off. It's unnecessary. What we need to understand is that to the child, that is a very important bond in his life, and he's feeling insecure at that moment when he's acting up like that. And we need to be tolerant. The reason why we're learning all of this is so that we are tolerant. We call it the terrible twos. When the child, they don't really care about anything that's happening around them. The world revolves around them during this time. We need to be tolerant. We need to be understanding of what exactly is happening here. There's an anxiety that is coming with being separated from what is familiar, and they're going into something new. And I would liken that to the example of you going into a wedding for the first time. You're going to your in-laws side of things, and they're having a wedding, and they're putting the men in the tent outside, and they're putting all the women together in the dining room, in the lounge, and you don't know anybody there. and everybody is looking at you because you're the new makoti, and they're checking your clothes and they're checking your hair and they're checking everything. You're anxious, you know. So we need to always try to empathize with the child with something that we can relate to in order for us to build or harvest tolerance and understanding. And in being tolerant and in being understanding, we're obviously going to be more empathetic and try to make the child as comfortable as possible, right? So the benefits of having strong attachment, what we're talking about here is that you need to become that child's favorite person. You need to become that child's familiar face. The benefits of that is that it will promote social, emotional, language, cognitive, and moral skills. The child will be able to learn better. He will engage with everybody in the class better. He will be able to grasp the concept that you are trying to teach when he feels secure, when he feels that he's not in danger, that you as the primary adult in the space now is concerned and cares about him. It's for our own good. Because if that child doesn't learn anything at the end of the day, you are a bad teacher, you are a bad caregiver, you are a bad favorite person, right? The child just basically wasted his whole year, right? Secondly, we say it promotes a sense of confidence and trust. That child understands that you are not going to leave them in the lurch, that you are not going to hurt them, that you are not going to put them in harm's way, that you are not going to sell them to traffickers that are coming past your crash or anything like that. The child has confidence and trust in you. Secondly, we say that children can show caring attitudes and form good bonds with others then. So you will see they actually act it out. The ones that were there a little bit longer, they will go sit next to the other one. They will share their lollipops with them. They will hold their hands. They will hug them. The ones that are a little bit smaller, they will actually go and they will pat them on their shoulder, or, you know, tell them, don't worry, everything is going to be okay. They're able to empathize with the others. All right, so there we have it, bonding and attachment in all its 4 stages and how it happens right up until the age of 2 years and beyond. We understand what it does and why it is important for us as teachers, as educators, caregivers, whatever you want to call us, and how that creates a better environment and a better community. All right, now we jump into our next slide. Ntwaki, are you there? Okay, Khomotso, you can go for it.
Hello.
Hi, Khomotso, how are you?
Fine, thanks, and yourself?
I'm good, thanks, dear. Would you like to read the slide on the screen for us, please?
Okay, no problem, ma'am. Negative of being denied attachment can lead to mistrust, difficulty in learning and showing focus, lack of emotional control, withdrawal from interacting with peers, may show conflict behavior, lack of good health. Signs,
Can carry on?
or I can carry on?
Yeah.
Signs of secure attachment. Feeling safe in a caregiver's presence, good self-image and self-confidence, sense of trust in the environment they grew up in.
All right, so that word is actually supposed to be trust. Pedro, note there on the last sentence, sense of trust in the environment they grow up in.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because sense of rust won't be good.
Yeah, won't be.
All right. All right, Khomotso. So tell me, which one can you tell us a little bit about any of the points that you see on the board, whether it's the negatives or whether it's the signs of secure attachment? Pick anyone and just tell us a little bit about it in your experience.
Okay. In my experience, I will pick up lack of emotional control. A lack of emotional control. I think it's when a child, maybe she's crying, she's not feeling well.
Yeah.
Or yeah, I have mixed feelings. And when you try to comfort her, she doesn't know what, she doesn't stop crying. You
Yeah.
try everything. You try everything that you could do, and then for the
Yeah.
whole day that child is down, and then he's not active. She's not active.
Yeah.
So I think she'll be having a lack of emotional control.
Yes. Yes. Very,
Yeah.
very good. Very good, Komoto. All right, guys. So, basically, on the top, we're saying, these are all the things that can go wrong if that child doesn't get that attachment that he needs at the times when he needs it through his development. All right. And then Komoto is obviously picking on the fact that you will see that that child isn't able to control himself emotionally. If the child is feeling sad, she will be sad like a person that is diagnosed manic depressive, crying, screaming, wailing, performing for hours on end, not able to self-soothe and comfort themselves because the child is anxious, because the child is scared. They don't know. Many times they've been left by themselves to fend for themselves. They got hurt or whatever the case may be. They don't know for sure that that person is coming back to come and fetch them at the end of the day. All right. Some people are more dramatic. Some children are more dramatic than others. Again, I would say if we would want to empathize with those children, put yourselves in their children's situation. So as an adult, usually our primary connection or our primary attachment is to our significant other. That is your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, whatever the case may be. All right. And if that person doesn't bond with you, if that person doesn't spend quality time with you, if that person doesn't reassure you, if that person doesn't answer the phone every time you call them, if that person blue ticks you, you become anxious, you become worried, you start to not trust them, you think that they are up to something, that they have somebody else that they are entertaining, and your mind is racing. So look at point number 2, difficulty in learning and showing focus. You are not able to focus at work. The boss will come to you and ask, hey man, your personal problems are interfering with my work things. You're not meeting targets. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. All right. The point of this is to show us how we are supposed to be able to empathize and relate to that child. That primary caregiver, that mother, that teenage mother who is not able to give herself fully to the child is most probably going to deny that child of this proper attachment. Are we together? So we need to be able to get this message across to the parents, to the primary caregivers, to the favorite person, so that they provide that secure attachment to their child so that you have a better learning experience in your class and you don't have to make up for that all the time. All right. So it's very, very important for us when we see these signs of negative that comes with being denied attachment, that we are able to identify it and have that conversation with the involved person. When it's parents day, or if it needs to be more urgent, call them in and say, listen, I'm noticing all of these things in your child. I think there might be a problem. Would you like to speak to our counselor or to myself? I can set some time aside and explain to me why this child is anxious, why this child is constantly looking and yearning and crying for um, his needs to be met. All right. So straight on, we jumped into our next slide. I think we only have 15 minutes left and we have about a few more slides. I'm going to try to finish it up today. So please excuse me if I sound a bit rushed, but remember that you can always get the information on the portal. Our next slide speaks about the toddler's bite. After that, I'm going to ask, let me see, Valencia to read for us. I'm going to read toddler's bite, and after that, Valencia is going to read for us. All right? Toddler's bite. Okay. So we're speaking now about the challenging behaviors that comes with toddlers. We know that is children in the preschool ages, anything from 0 to 6, 7, 8 years old even, right? So one of the things that you will notice amongst this age group is they like to bite, and it's normal for them. They bite people, they bite objects. A lot of them are teething, so their gums are itchy and they get relief from biting onto something. All right, so it can be a person or it can be an object. We usually have these little teething rings and rubber things and icicles that we keep in the fridges. And remember, obviously, hygiene is of utmost importance, and that is why in the ECD setting, we sterilize every day. After every session, we sterilize because they're putting things in their mouths all the time, and that could spread germs because the one will put it in the mouth, the other one will grab it and put it in his mouth as well, right? Why do they do this? Because they don't have the ability sometimes to express themselves. Sometimes they angry or sometimes they want something and they don't know how to do it. So they usually just go and orally fixate on something. They do it when they are also not feeling safe. Now, what can we do as caregivers? We need to be observant of them. You will hear lots of parents come and complain that my child got bitten yesterday, and you don't know that the child got bitten because you are not observing who is the biter in the class. There's always a biter in every class, right? And then also we need to communicate with the child that that behavior is not acceptable. You have a stern look on your face. You make it known that it's not good, that it's not okay. And on the flip side, if the child then starts expressing himself in a healthy way, even though he's feeling negative things, but he's expressing that in a healthy way in which he's not biting somebody else, then we need to give that child some sort of credit, right? Some sort of approval. Okay, our next slide we're going to jump right into, and that is Toddlers Get Into Everything. Valencia, are you there?
Hello,
Valencia. Oh, hi. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. And you?
I'm good, thank you, my dear. You want to jump right into it? Toddlers Get Into Everything?
Okay, toddlers get into everything.
You can read?
Rating their reach. Caregivers can assist toddlers' effort to be familiar themselves with children's needs and behaviors.
All right. Valencia, I don't know if it's your signal or my signal. Pedro, can you just tell me there if you heard everything or...
No, I think Valencia's signal must be a bit bad.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. So,
it's very bad. I'm struggling to hear you guys.
oh, okay. Sorry about that. Hopefully you can
Yes.
get the recording on the portal. All right. So I'm just going to summarize it quickly. And basically it's as plain as what it's saying on the screen. They want to touch, feel, taste, climb everywhere. So they will get on your desk, they will climb on into trees, they will climb on cars, they will climb on the roof if they can. All right, we need to make sure that the environment is always safe and that we don't have hazardous chemicals lying around openly where they can access it and just start drinking it or throwing it on each other or anything like that. All right, we need to make sure also that they are independent. They are trying to establish their territory and they want to do things for themselves. So we need to grant that opportunity as much as possible. So I see lots of times mommies get upset because they unpack all the cupboards and they take out everything and then they leave a big mess and then she has to go and she has to clean it. You know what? For this stage of their lives, just make peace with the fact that your house is never going to be fine. Your classroom is never going to be fine. But what you can do is teach them after making the mess how much fun it is to clean up the mess by singing a cleaning up song. All right. So they're going to get into everything and they're going to throw everything everywhere. But the beauty part of it is that just by creating a song, tidy up and clean, 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 clean. Once you start singing that song or you put it on your CD in your classroom or whatever the case may be, you'll see how they get rid of that mess and put it back, hopefully exactly the way that they found it. This is how they experience the world. This is how they make sense of the world. They touch, they feel, they taste, they climb, they bite everything and anything that comes into their sight. All right. It's part of childhood. It's part of growing up. If you can't stand this, guys, then you need to get out of the ECD field because you're going to have a miserable life. All right. Straight into our next slide. What we need to understand about these guys is that they throw tantrums. They will perform, they will throw themselves on the floor. They are not shy of anybody and they're not there to impress anybody. They will throw tantrums, right? They want to do everything by themselves, even if they do it crappy, you know? Even if that child comes to you in your personal experience and that child decides today, no, he is wearing orange boots with cheeky shorts and he is wearing a raincoat and he's wearing 5 scarves on top of his head, you cannot reason with that person. Let that person be. That is who they want to be today. Let them be. Only time we step in is not if the colors are not coordinating, it's not if it's not making sense, it's only if it is harmful to them. Right? They find it difficult to understand their own limited abilities. They also want to cook. They also want to pour the tea and whatever. When it's a danger to them, then obviously we do not allow them to do it. But we try to give them an experience like that. So instead of the boiling water, we can go find a kettle that looks similar to it and whatever. And we can make a small table in one corner. In the class, we will have it in our fantasy corner, and we will allow them to have that experience of pouring tea and giving it to the visitors and so on and so forth. They want to be adults and they want to be children. So they want to throw tea and have tea parties like adults, but they want to throw tantrums like children also. That's how it goes, right? They get angry and cry. The caregivers refuses to pick them up or do what they want to do. They throw tantrums, get over it, right? Next slide will tell us what we can do. Observe a child and understand why they are likely to get upset. Set up a transition time between activities and let the toddler know about it. All right. So let's just put this into perspective quickly. You can't be doing the same activity every day, the whole day, right? Now, children do this because they try to master it. They try to perfect their craft. They're busy with a certain thing. They become obsessed with that thing, right? But we have a problem because we have 23 children in the class and everybody wants to have a go at that thing, but this person is sitting at that thing. In our class, we have transition times and we use signals, sound signals for that transition to happen, and the child eventually gets the hang of it, that every time that siren goes, every time that bell goes, I need to tidy up the activity that I'm doing, put it back in its place, and I need to go to another activity. You cannot just come to a child and say, right, come, finish class, put it away. The child needs to know that when that siren goes, I have this amount of time, then another siren is going to go, or a whistle or a tinkle is going to go, and then I need to be out of this space. And I don't want to be the only one that is not moving as we're supposed to be moving, so then the child is more likely to move, right? But we will speak more about transition times and signals and so on and so forth in another module, all right? Also, we need to use simple rules that toddlers can easily comprehend. In your class, you cannot have long paragraphs of the labor law and everything and good manners and long Bible stories and everything. It needs to be as simple as possible. You need to maybe have a picture of a glass and you have a big X on that glass. That means you are not allowed to drink water in the space because there are library books here. As simple as that. You need to have a big picture with food on in the area where the children are allowed to eat, or a picture with a girl eating, and the child knows that only in that area you are allowed to have your lunch or to take a break or to eat or whatever the case may be, right? They should calm themselves and speak to the toddlers with a controlled and soft voice. You cannot be screaming and freaking out every time a child does something that is against the rules. All right. We go straight to our next slide. We have 5 minutes left. We're trying to beat the clock here. We need to understand that toddlers fight. They think the world and life is WWE, right? And they fight because they are unable to express how they are feeling. Yes, yes.
Sorry, Sophia, don't forget talking.
Okay. All right, so okay, the next one after this one that I'm reading now, you can do, all right? They often fight because they are unable to express how they are feeling. They usually get angry if someone takes away their possessions. If they are stopped from doing something, they scream, they cry, they push. The toddler world is a fighty world. What do? We recognize feeling and offer assistance. And we encourage each toddler to use appropriate words for their feelings. You will see in this world that these children come with some Spanish words into your classroom. And if you don't get that under control, and if you don't show no tolerance for that from the beginning, you're going to have a class full of swearing farmers every day, the whole day. Right? You need to make it known very, very emphatically that certain language is not allowed in your classroom. All right. And I'm speaking obviously of vulgarities and swear words and so on and so forth. All right. Mtswaki, you can go on to our next slide. Our next slide is toddlers saying no. Okay. I think Mtswaki is still having problems. I don't see her unmuting. All right. I'm going to wrap it up. Next time, Mtswaki, we hope you have your mic problem sorted out here. All right. So to wrap it up, we're talking about these little people. We say one of the things we need to get used to with them is that they say no. Everything is no. You come near them, you want to touch, you want to take your own thing, your own phone out of their hands, they will tell you no. Right? They want to try and do everything independently. Even if their buttons, the number 3 is by number 1's hole and number 5 is by number 10's hole, or whatever the case may be, they don't care. They want to do it independently, right? And they can be in danger, but they will still say no when you ask them to help them. In that case, obviously, you ignore the no and you put the child in a safe space, right? We need to recognize developmental needs for independence, and we need to set up the environment that is mindful of unwanted danger. All right. So basically, at the end of the day, what we are saying here to caregivers, what we are saying to parents is that by studying these people, these little people, by studying them and understanding why they do what they do, we will become more empathetic towards them, and we will be equipped, giving the experiences to them that they are yearning for in the different stages of their development, in the different periods. In Montessori philosophy, we call it sensitive periods. There's sensitive periods for different things. And for example, from the ages of 18 months to 24 months, we call that the sensitive period of language. There's an explosion in language that happens there that children are able to pick up on, and they are able to string words together, sentences together, and everything in such a short period of that 6 months that they weren't able to do for the 18 months before that. All right. So there's different periods where milestones are peaking and where the experience for that specific age group or category needs to be capitalized on for us to get the best potential out of these little human beings. And if we know this, if we understand this, if we invest our time into learning this, besides what is being said on the portal, and just go to TED Talks about it, go to Google about it, YouTube about it, you will have such a more fulfilled experience teaching these young people and these minds, and you will honor them in the way that they ought to be honored. All right, and that brings us to the end of our session tonight. Sorry for rushing it. I was just very adamant that we were going to complete all 21, 22 slides before the end of the program, because this is already the second part of this chapter in development and intervention of infants and toddlers. And with that being said, if there are no questions, I bid you good night and God bless and goodbye.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, Night.
Bye-bye.